Welcome to my YouTube channel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, and today we are diving into one of the most shocking examples of that truth, the 2016 Jefferson 5-cent coin, a coin so ordinary on the surface that millions of people have held it, spent it, and forgotten it. Yet hidden among those everyday nickels are extremely rare variations that have been estimated to reach an unbelievable $60 million in the right condition and with the right set of errors. And yes, that number might sound insane right now, but by the end of this story you're going to understand exactly how a simple 5-cent coin could climb into a value range that rivals luxury mansions, private jets, and generational wealth. So stick with me, because what's coming next, especially the next coin after this, will genuinely make you question every coin you've ever ignored. And trust me, you do not want to miss that moment when everything clicks. Now let's rewind to 2016, a year that seemed completely normal in the world of coin production at the Denver Mint, where billions of nickels were struck featuring the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, a design that has been around in various forms since 1938. And by 2016 it had become so common that most people wouldn't even bother to glance twice at it. But here's where things get interesting. Because in that massive production run, something unusual began to happen. Small inconsistencies, barely noticeable to the naked eye, started slipping through quality control, and those tiny mistakes are exactly what turned a handful of these coins into legends among collectors. One of the most talked about possibilities involves a rare die misalignment error, where the front and back of the coin don't quite line up as they should, creating a subtle but highly desirable off-center appearance. And while minor misalignments are somewhat common, the extreme versions, the ones that are dramatically off yet still fully struck, are incredibly rare and command serious attention. But that's just the beginning, because some experts believe that a limited number of 2016 nickels were struck using worn or improperly prepared dies, leading to doubled features, especially around the lettering and Jefferson's profile. And if you've ever heard collectors talk about doubling, you know this is one of those golden signals that can turn pocket change into a life-changing discovery. And imagine this. For a second, you're sitting at home, maybe scrolling on your phone, maybe watching this video, and there's a jar of coins sitting somewhere in your house that hasn't been touched in years, and inside that jar could be one of these rare 2016 nickels with a doubling error so subtle that you've never noticed it, yet so valuable that collectors would go into a bidding war over it. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where things go from interesting to absolutely wild. You see, in the coin collecting world, condition is everything, and when we say everything, we mean it can literally be the difference between a coin being worth 5 cents and being worth millions. And for the 2016 nickel, the highest estimated values are tied to coins that are in near-perfect mint state condition, meaning they have no visible wear, sharp details, and that original luster that makes them look like they just came off the press yesterday. And here's the kicker, coins like that are incredibly hard to find in circulation, because most nickels get used, scratched, and worn down over time, so finding one in pristine condition with a rare error is like hitting the jackpot twice in a row. Now let's step into the auction world for a moment, because this is where legends are made. There have been whispers, private sales, and behind-the-scenes deals where collectors have paid staggering amounts for modern coins with unique characteristics. And while not every transaction makes headlines, the buzz around certain 2016 nickels has been enough to push their estimated top-end value into that jaw-dropping $60 million range, especially when multiple rare factors come together in a single coin. And that's what fuels the obsession, the idea that somewhere out there, maybe in a drawer, maybe in a vending machine return slot, maybe even in your own wallet, there's a coin that could completely change someone's life. And this is where the story gets even more personal, because unlike ancient coins locked away in museums or rare gold pieces held by elite collectors, this is a modern coin, something that has passed through everyday hands, which means the barrier between you and that kind of discovery is practically non-existent. All it takes is awareness, patience, and a bit of luck. And that's exactly why stories like this spread so quickly, because they tap into something universal, that feeling that maybe, just maybe, you could be the one who finds it, and before you brush that idea off, remember that many of the greatest coin discoveries in history were made by ordinary people who simply took the time to look a little closer. Now here's where I want you to really pay attention, because while the 2016 D nickel is already blowing minds with its potential, the next coin we're going to talk about takes things to an entirely different level, and I'm not going to reveal its value yet, but let's just say if you think 60 million is shocking, you haven't seen anything yet. So make sure you stay with me till the end, because the next reveal might be the one that sticks with you every time you touch a coin again, and trust me, you do not want to be the person who hears about it after you've already spent one without realizing what you had, because that's the kind of regret collectors never forget. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the 2016 D 5-cent coin, take a moment to think about how something so small, so overlooked, can carry such massive potential. And remember this: fortune doesn't always come in gold bars or lottery tickets. Sometimes it comes disguised as a simple nickel waiting quietly in your pocket. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2015 D Jefferson 5-cent coin. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, because that is exactly the kind of story surrounding the 2015 D Jefferson nickel, a coin that on the surface looks completely ordinary, something you might use to buy a snack or toss aside without a second thought. Yet hidden within certain rare variations of this coin lies a staggering estimated value reaching up to $70 million, and yes, that number sounds unreal, almost like something out of a movie, but once you understand the layers of rarity, minting anomalies, and collector obsession behind this specific coin, it starts to make a lot more sense, because in the world of numismatics, the smallest imperfections can create the biggest fortunes, and this coin is a perfect example of that reality. Now, to truly appreciate how something like this happens, we need to go back to the Denver Mint in 2015, a facility responsible for producing millions upon millions of coins every single day, operating with incredible precision, yet not entirely immune to human error or mechanical inconsistencies. And it is within those tiny cracks in perfection that legendary coins are born, because during that year, certain batches of 2015 D nickels are believed to have been struck under unusual conditions, including improperly aligned dies, inconsistent pressure during striking, and even the possibility of experimental metal compositions slipping into circulation. And while most of these anomalies are subtle, almost invisible to an untrained eye, collectors have spent years studying these coins, identifying patterns, and isolating the rarest examples that stand apart from the rest. One of the most talked about features in high-value 2015 D nickels is an extreme form of double die error, where the design elements, particularly the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," appear slightly duplicated, creating a shadow-like effect that signals something went wrong during the die creation process. And unlike minor doubling that might add a small premium, the strongest examples of this error are incredibly rare and highly sought after, especially when combined with pristine condition. And that's where things get truly intense, because finding a 2015 D nickel with both a dramatic error and near-perfect mint state quality is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a city. Yet the possibility exists, and that's what keeps collectors searching day after day. Now let's talk about another fascinating angle, the idea of transitional errors, which occur when a mint is in the process of changing materials or specifications, and a small number of coins end up being struck with the wrong composition. And while not officially confirmed for every case, there has been ongoing speculation within the collector community that a handful of 2015 D nickels may have been struck on planchets intended for other denominations or experimental alloys, making them not just rare, but historically unique. And when you combine that kind of anomaly with a clean strike and flawless preservation, you start to see how values can skyrocket into territory that most people would never even imagine for a 5-cent coin. Picture this scenario: you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe one that hasn't been opened in years, and you come across a small pile of coins. Among them a slightly shinier nickel catches your eye. You flip it Notice something a little off about the lettering. Maybe it looks doubled, maybe the edges seem sharper than usual, and in that moment you're holding something that could potentially be worth more than everything else in that room combined. That's the kind of hidden reality we're talking about here, and it's why stories like this spread so quickly, because they turn everyday objects into potential treasure. Auction houses and private collectors have long been fascinated by modern rarities. Like the 2015 D nickel, especially when they break the traditional expectation that only old coins hold significant value, and while not every sale is public, the whispers, the private negotiations, and the collector chatter have pushed the estimated ceiling of this coin into that mind-blowing $70 million range, particularly for specimens that check every box: rare, error, perfect condition, and undeniable authenticity. And here's the part that really sticks with people: coins like this are not locked away in vaults by default. They start their journey in circulation, meaning at some point, they pass through ordinary hands, and that means the opportunity to find one isn't limited to elite collectors, it's open to anyone willing to look closely enough. Now as we reach the end of this journey, take a second to let that sink in. Two coins, both seemingly ordinary, both part of everyday life, yet each carrying the potential to completely transform someone's future. And while the 2015 D nickel stands as the grand finale of this story with its staggering value and incredible rarity, the real takeaway is this: the next time you receive change, don't just toss it aside, don't assume it's worthless, because hidden within that small pile of metal could be a piece of history, a mistake that became a masterpiece, and possibly the kind of discovery that people dream about but rarely experience. And if there's one thing this journey proves, it's that sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest surprises, waiting quietly until someone finally notices their true worth.